Dear Americans and illegals who are currently residing inside of the United States, those of you who hate Donald Trump, hate our administration, and would like to fight Trump, now's your chance. We have a saying, which is everyone has their time to shine. Now, for a lot of you, I've been seeing you on the internet for the past, God, since Trump became the president years ago. Even when Trump wasn't president, I've been seeing you guys say the same things. Now that Trump is back in the office and has the reins, you're still talking about fighting Trump. You want to fight Trump. You want to fight the administration. You want to go to war with Trump. Now's your chance. Now, I know you could have flown to the Ukraine or you could have flown to another war-torn country, but this is actually in a part of the Americas. If you really want to fight Trump and you're really against deportation, ICE, white supremacy, racism, those are all things you hate and you embody those in Donald Trump and his personality, well, Maduro is looking for you. President Maduro of Venezuela is now looking for people, disinfected, disgruntled Americans and from others abroad to come to Venezuela to help him defend the country and fight against Trump. You hate imperialism and colonialism. I get that. Now's your chance to show us how much. Now, it's easy to talk about fighting Trump from behind a computer or from within the safety of your own borders. You show up to places, you sit in the street, but you're not really affecting any change. What you want to do is you want to get busy. What you want to do is you want to throw hands. You want to get out there with your training. You're better than a soldier. You're better than Green Berets. You're a tough guy. You're a tough girl. You're a tough, confused person who is a guy and a girl combined into I don't know what the fuck you are, but you're good at it. And I think you got what it takes to join the Venezuelans to fight against Trump directly. That's how you stick it to the man. That's how you stick it to the administration. War is coming, regardless. But obviously, the United States, we're not going to pick a fight we can't win, which is why we declined the fade with the Russian Federation. Actually, we were actually a part of the fade, but the Russians whooped all of NATO so bad that the United States pretended we weren't even a part of it, and none of our soldiers were over there, and we just threw some money, but we didn't really have nothing to do with it because that would be a stain on our name. That would be some smut on our name, the fact that we got whooped by the Russians so bad. So we just are now pretending like we had nothing to do with that situation. But the Venezuelans, oh, we got this. That's like fighting Iraq or Libya. That's chump change. We can do that. But no, not the Russian Federation, and we're not fighting the Chinese either.
President Trump issued a dire threat to Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Get out now. The Miami Herald first reported a readout of a call between the two leaders last week, where Trump told Maduro in no uncertain terms to leave Venezuela immediately in order to save himself and his family. During the call, Maduro allegedly demanded to maintain control of his military and receive global amnesty for any crime. That is when President Trump offered his blunt demand, and the call pretty quickly broke down from there. The news comes as President Trump announced over the weekend that he's shutting down Venezuelan airspace, quote, in its entirety. This is his latest move to stop a surge in drug trafficking out of that country. And the Trump administration is not only taking to the skies, but the seas as well. In addition to shutting down the airspace, the U.S. military has a lot of firepower in the waters around Venezuela.
This is not really Trump giving him an ultimatum. It's really more so just him giving a heads up to everyone who does business or any commercial travel in or around the region. We did have an incident with a commercial flight that was shot down over the Ukraine because it was because the Russians closed the airspace over the Ukraine and created a no-fly zone, and a commercial flight was shot down. Hundreds of people passed away. We're trying to avoid that now by giving people a heads up. Remember, Trump didn't do a press conference. He didn't go on the news. The dude put out a truth saying we're shutting down. He went on Truth Social and announced we're shutting down the Venezuelan airspace. Just to give everybody else a heads up. He wants Maduro gone. I'll be honest, it's not necessarily about the drugs, because everyone knows the drugs are coming from Mexico, the fentanyl is coming from China, and we don't have a grip on that. The best we can do is what's being done now, which is we shut down the border. So that's helping. But we're using Venezuela to send a message to the cartels, and we're going to show them what we're made of. A direct fight on our border against Scheinbaum and the cartels is going to be messy. So we're going to have to conduct a psychological warfare on them first. Where basically it's like when you and your sibling are in trouble and your parents spank you and your sibling standing right there watching. They're going to watch how Venezuela is handled, and they're going to have to decide what they're going to want to do to prepare for the United States to eventually go after the cartels with surgical precision. As of now, you got to understand, this is what we do. Do you like the way of life here in America? Do you like that we get goods for cheap, and that compared to Europe, our gas is cheap? People were complaining about $3 gas in America. Where I used to live at in Germany, we were paying $15. There's a lot of benefits of being the reserve currency for the world. There are a lot of benefits. A lot of things are cheap. Most things are cheaper for us. Our passports are stronger. We have easy access, but we're an imperial nation. We don't export anything anymore. Our iPhones are made in China. What besides Black culture, which is rap, violence, and anti-family sentiment, what else does the United States export? We don't have anything. We consume more than we ship out, which causes hyperinflation. To bring inflation down, we do have to invade countries and take their resources. Regardless if you like it or not, that's who we are. That's what we do. That's why our way of life here is so comfortable. In this omelet, there are eggs that must be cracked. Right now, the next egg on the list is Venezuela. That's just how it goes. You like how things are in the US. You want to keep us as a superpower. You want us to be able to maintain our petrodollar. We're going to need more petro. And also, Venezuela is on the horn of South America, and it's for sale. If we don't do it today, the Russians or the Chinese will do it tomorrow. They'll set up a beachhead. They'll start importing. If they expanded the Belt and Road Initiative from Africa to South America. They already put a beachhead. They've already started doing operations in Brazil. Imagine if we lose South America, which we are connected by land to South America. Imagine if we lost control and influence over South America to our economic foes, which are the Chinese. Then what will we do? That's a risk that we're not willing to take. We can't afford to take. So since it's up for grabs, we are just going to grab it first. If you want to keep your nice, comfortable way of life, this is what is required. If you don't like it and you don't agree with us, then show us and prove it and go join the forces in Venezuela or move to Canada. Renounce your citizenship. You don't have to be an American. You don't like how America works, choose something else. But crying about it on the internet and getting with a bunch of your friends and just nagging, it's like, grow up, do something else. You know, I was living in California during the lockdown. I didn't like how restaurants were closed, but they were telling you that you can have outdoor seating and food trucks or movie sets, but not for small restaurants that were down the street. I didn't like all the double standards. I didn't like the vaccine passports. I didn't like how Gavin Greasy Newsom was able to keep the French Laundry open, but they wanted me to close my Airbnb business because I'm spreading to people. Screw that. I said, you know what? I don't agree with it. I'm leaving. I went to another state. And when that state had a closure, I went to another state. And then eventually, when people kept telling me that Kamala might win, I moved to another country. You're going to have to do the same thing too. You don't necessarily have to agree with us. And by living in the United States and paying taxes on goods that you're purchasing, you're actually funding everything that you claim to hate. The best way to show us that you're serious about how much you don't like Trump and his policies, completely divest yourself from the United States and move. That's the best way to do it.
The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group has already been deployed to the Caribbean, and that group features 11 ships, over 70 aircraft, and 9 carrier air wings. Now, the buildup has sent reliable Venezuelan allies, Russia and China, slinking away to avoid angering President Trump. Word is that the two countries have decreased aid to Maduro to pretty much the bare minimum as a purely symbolic gesture. And back here at home, some lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have criticized the ramping up of force. President Trump's ally, Republican Senator Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania, was on Fox News Sunday defending the developments.
Don't forget, Venezuela used to be a very prosperous country before the communists came. And before Maduro, before Chavez, it was a very successful company. Oil was their business. Energy was their business. And unfortunately, now their business is being mismanaged. Their people are starving. I know this because I live in Colombia part-time. So I meet every girl I date, for the most part, is from Venezuela. Every girl I talk to is from Venezuela, but not living in Venezuela because things got so bad. They love their country. They would love to return to their country one day, but unfortunately, it's being terribly mismanaged. Think of this as a corporate takeover with bullets. It happens every day in the corporate world, and on a national level, on a worldwide stage, it does happen. Countries are invaded. The names change. Look at, again, I bring up the Ukraine. Those cities in the Ukraine, the names are being changed to Russian names. And eventually the entire country will be called whatever the hell Russians want to call it. Venezuela will likely keep its name and its people. We're just going to change the upper management so that the people there can afford to survive. And then they're not forced to try to flee to the United States just to live. If they can stay in their own country because they can earn and live and keep there and stay in their homeland, then they will. They're not coming here because they just think the United States is better. They have tons of beachfront property, beautiful people, great culture, food, but it's just the government is just strangling them to death. And that's what happens under communism. That's what happens when you have a dictator. And who are we to tell people what's best? But unfortunately, their bottom line does affect us here in the United States. And again, they're being influenced by other nations, other superpowers, and we would lose that country to another superpower if we don't hurry up and step in. That's why he's not saying we're going to wipe you out, Maduro. You have the chance to just take your family and leave. Now, there have been crimes against humanity committed against your people under your regime. So he's asking for amnesty if he goes to another country, so he was not arrested and extradited to the United States. It doesn't seem like we're willing to make that agreement. Maybe the best we'll do is we'll extradite Maduro, but we'll leave his children and his wife out of it, and they can be rich in another country, maybe Argentina, or they can move to London. There's a lot of people that they can move to another country and stay alive, but their father, President Maduro, would probably be prosecuted eventually somewhere. I don't know if they're going to offer him amnesty. And that's what they were just talking about, by the way.
We have a war that's coming through fentanyl, through opioids, through cocaine. It killed 100,000 Americans last year. That's twice the number of people that died in 8 years of Vietnam, 4,000 Pennsylvanians. And when President Trump was running, he and I both campaigned on the same thing, which was secure the border, designate the cartels as narco-terrorists, and use our military in a strategic, focused way to destroy this cartel infrastructure.
Well, okay, let's rewind. For one thing, Venezuela is not on our border. For two, the cartels he's referring to are in Mexico. The fentanyl he is referring to comes from China through Mexico. It's not touching down in Caracas, making its way through Panama and coming up through the border. It's literally coming directly from Mexico. We've already sourced it. So it seems like they're bleeding Venezuela and Mexico together, but they want to spank Venezuela first. Like, again, it's two siblings. They're looking at Venezuela and Mexico the same way, except they want to show Mexico what's going to happen to them and they're going to make an example out of Venezuela. Maduro is going to have to be sacrificed. They're going to let his children and his wife live, but again, they're going to have to use him to make an example. It's unfortunate how that works, but I'm listening to this man talk, and I'm like, well, Venezuela's not on our border, and the fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela. So the people on the left are rightfully making that point to the public, but the show must go on. We need the oil. We need the resources. We need to set up bring in our friends, our oil refineries, our distributors there, and we need to start properly managing the export, which is the oil, and that will eventually bring down our transportation costs here in the United States, which will also bring down our food prices. This is what we have to do to maintain our way of life here in the United States, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, feel free to get the fuck out.
Luigi Mangione is back in court today for.
So that's what the bottom line is. You can love it or leave it. That's what it is. We invade countries who have resources that we need, and that's how we keep our costs of living down. And we just incorporate them into our system. We absorb them. And Venezuela, again, they're being mismanaged. If they were being properly managed, we wouldn't need to absorb them. We would just work with them. But that's not happening. And then again, the globalist takeover is beginning in the United States, but we have the Zionists to the south, which is why you have a Jewish president, Scheinbaum. So she's going to eventually have to be removed as well, because the globalists and the Zionists are not going to be able to coexist. That's why you see a fight happening in the United States. They have a beachhead now in the state of New York, which was once a Zionist stronghold that they have lost. They're losing their influence. And eventually we're going to make our way south. Once the globalists take over the influence that the Zionists once had over our military, we will be going into Mexico soon. I got another video coming up. We're going to listen to the French assassin that was speaking about Candace Owens. We're going to discuss that war that he's mentioning, because there's a few different wars that he could be referring to. And I'm going to use my audience and see if we can go ahead and try to figure out which one he's talking about. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you again shortly with another video. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.